Hi everyone, I'm just going to speak really quickly on email marketing. So as Paul said, email marketing is obviously your number one retention marketing channel with your base who already know and love your brand. So really important from a building retention perspective and generating a loyalty and relationships. So Kerri is going to talk to you in detail about Klaviyo and all the wonderful things that platform can do. So I'm just going to talk about 5 quick tips for your email marketing strategy that I would recommend that we always bear in mind in terms of your strategy and your email content itself. So the first thing, an email in the hand is worth 10 social likes in the bush. That's not a saying, but roughly, we talked all day about how much more expensive it is to acquire than to retain. So your email addresses that you've got from the people that know and love your brand are absolute gold. Obviously the overall marketing mix, everything is important, but your email addresses are so important because those people already like your brand, they love you, and they've given you their consent to communicate to them. So really important to get those addresses. So recruit anywhere you can get them, but especially in the store. Don't forget about the store. Everybody knows you need to collect email addresses online, but the store is something not to neglect as well. So if you can also be doing that from an omni-channel perspective in store with consent for marketing communication, so we're GDPR compliant, that's really important. Make it easy. AB Commerce is really simple. There's some really simple sign up forms there, and what I mean is don't clog up your sign up process with trying to get every single field populated. Just get the email address and their consent. You can always go back to your base and ask them for more information. You don't need to know what gender they are, you don't need to know their birthday from the first instance. Just get the email and you can always go back for more. And it's worth giving them an incentive. I know most of you are doing that already. A little warm-up offer for the first offer, and I would say that is really crucial because people do shop around and look for them. So definitely include that. That's number 1. Number 2 is make your emails worthwhile, and make it worthwhile for you to generate them, and also for your customers to get them, because it is a significant effort to put them out, as a lot of you have said. So make sure it's worthwhile for your business, that it's driving sales, and that your customers want to get them. So the 2 things we want the channel to do is to build relationships with your customers and also drive your sales. So that needs to be good, strong content. You have to have a mixture of your sales message, your content stories, all those different things that your customers are going to want to get from you, so you're not hammering them over the head with sales offers all the time with the same message. So I just want to give you a quick example from a global retailer. This is Sweaty Betty, the activewear brand. They do this really well, actually. They balance their content between sale, between qualitative content around, what you think of their brand, to actual trend stories. So for retailers that are multi-category retailers out there, it is important that you've got a balance because you've got so much to talk about. It can't always be an offer on this, an offer on that. So you want to mix it up. So this is an example of a tactical promotion from them. They've got their 30% off, very simple. And there are only 24 hours to go. Hurry up and purchase. But they also, do their trend stories really well, and be that pharmacy, be that footwear, be that apparel, be that hardware. There's always a trend story or a content piece that you can put together that your audience are going to be interested in because they have given you their consent to communicate. They are interested in your brand. Think about those content stories that you can get out to them. And that's, if you think about your marketing calendar, I suppose it's fitting that into the overall calendar as well, and that's what you're looking for when you're putting your calendar together. And then lastly, from Sweaty Betty, they also survey the base as well. So that's an interesting touch point you can do with your customers, is to send them a qualitative survey. And this isn't necessarily give us a review, it's not a Trustpilot thing. It's basically tell us what you think of the experience. And those surveys are easy to put together in SurveyMonkey and whatnot. And that's your chance to ask your customers what they actually think about the experience, or if there's something you want to tweak. Like maybe you're thinking about changing your fulfillment provider, maybe you're thinking your deliveries may be a bit expensive. If there's something you want to know, a survey is a really great way to just do something simple. You can incentivize those as well, so something to think about. And that's another thing that Sweaty Betty do in their email program. So make it worthwhile. The next one is make it personal. You've got the data, as Paul was saying. AB Commerce is passing over a huge amount of data over to MailChimp, in pre-built segments and, at customer level. And that's also very powerful in what Klaviyo can do. But even, today, for anybody with an AB Commerce integration to MailChimp, there's a lot of data going over there. This is mymilkman.ie. I don't know if anyone's heard of these. I'm loving these at the minute. So they obviously personalize all of their communications to me. They've got my first name. They've got my local milkman, who's Ashan, who I've never met, but he's obviously just the data associated with my account. And they generate this email and tell me what's happening with my account in mymilkman.ie. Now, you can do that in terms of personalization with AB Commerce, but also, in terms of personalizing content and segmenting content based on what your customers have bought and what they're interested in. So think about that. Then in terms of content for the email itself, always nail that content that you're creating. When nail that subject line is really important for two reasons. We want the email to be opened, and subject line is the number one factor that will obviously encourage someone to open your email. And also it's important for your email, for your subject line to be compliant and to be interesting so that you don't obviously go into junk folders. So a couple of good examples. This is ASOS. They've got their personalization, they've got my name in there, they've got their offer. I can see there's something going on there, and they use their brand tone of voice really well. Treat yourself. That's their kind of little, their brand tone of voice coming across. So really good one from them. This one is Warehouse, I think. Flash sale 40% off. So they're using emojis, which actually, believe it or not, is thought to increase open rate. So, don't overdo it with the emojis, but it is, they are good to include because if they're right for your brand, help with that. These are also getting some urgency in there. It's a flash sale. Hurry up, open me and see what's in there. And then just kind of getting back to our trend story and the content pieces, it is possible obviously to get those across. This is one from made.com, the furniture retailer, and they're being really clear. It's a trend. This is a trend email. If I'm interested in a trend or a content piece, I'm going to open that. And then I put this one in for the crack. Sunday Times is getting this wrong. Their data obviously isn't in a good place. They've got my surname, but they've got a gap in my first name. So there's a data gap there, and they've just got other instead of my first name, which is an error from them. So if you are going to be doing personalization, have a look at the audience in MailChimp and see what your data is like, because if it's in a bad place, that is not going to, be a good experience for your customers. And the other thing is that their send name, their default from name, is truncated there in my Gmail. So 0 out of 10 for the Sunday Times. And then lastly, test and test again. Before you actually hit send to your base on anything, this is one of the most important things I'd like to get across, is that you need to send a test. You need to send a test. It's an absolute must do, no excuses. Send a real test to a real person, okay? So you've got your email created, and there's a lot of work obviously associated with that. But before it goes out to your base, always do the test send to a real person in your team, another pair of eyes, so that they can actually, check that nothing's gone wrong, you've got correct content, there's no broken links, and that it's rendering correctly. And they must also test on mobile, because you can see from your own analytics that most of your base will be opening their emails on their mobile, so it needs to render correctly. So tiny little images, anything like that, that's going to show up when you test it. And this is a real life example as well this is a handbag retailer, an Australian company. They have gone back out with their they've made a mistake, they didn't test correctly, and what they got wrong was the offer price point. So that's a pretty big mistake. And then they had to go back and give more discounts. So what they intended to do was a 40% off, but they obviously made a little mistake along the way and ended up giving 50% off, which is quite significant. So testing probably would have picked that up. So that's it for me, just 5 little quick tips. I'm going to hand over to Kerri, who's going to talk to you about Klaviyo. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much. Hey everybody, thank you very much for having me here today. My name is Kerri and I'm a partnership manager at Klaviyo. I'm here today with my colleague Jasmine, who's at the back of the room there, and you can go and find her afterwards for a demo of the product. But for those of you who don't already know what it is that we do at Klaviyo, we are a marketing platform that helps forward-thinking e-commerce retailers connect with their customers, helps them acquire new ones, and helps them leverage their customer data to create really fantastic digital experiences. So we're a global company. We're working with over 90,000 paying customers globally across 125 different countries. And in terms of our employee base, we were born out of Boston in the US, but we've got a London office, an office in Australia as well. So we're kind of growing our global presence in that sense as well. What we're most known for in the space that you'll hear again and again is that email piece. But the platform is very multifaceted. You can use it for various other things, SMS, building customer segments, giving sign-up forms to customers to capture more information, and you can use it as an analytics tool as well. But for the purpose of this presentation and the focus that we've had so far, let's focus on email. So I'm sure many of you, if not all of you in this room, are using email already to connect with your customers, whether that's just via transactional messages or you're using it from more of a marketing standpoint. But just to illustrate how effective email can be as a channel when you're leveraging it correctly or when you're leveraging it using the appropriate tool, here's a few stats from our platform, the clients using our platform. So generally, a retailer using Klaviyo will see a 62 times ROI from the email platform, and 30% of that store's overall revenue will come purely from the email. So you can see obviously that's a huge chunk of revenue coming just from email itself. And of that 30%, 35 is coming all from automations. So in other words, you set it once, set it, forget it, and the automations are just generating revenue in your sleep. From a growth perspective, for brands using Klaviyo, we tend to see within the first 6 months of migrating over, we see a nearly 30% uplift in revenue. But if you're migrating across from maybe a more simplistic tool, so a MailChimp, for instance, this tends to be about a 46% uplift within that first 6 months as well. So when you're leveraging it correctly, and particularly if you're wanting to partner up with a Magico on those email services, it can be super, super effective. Our mission as a business is to empower every business to own their own destiny. And what we really mean by this ownership piece is to reduce your reliance on maybe some of the other marketing channels that you have no control over. So, for instance, if we're looking at social media, those algorithms are subject to change. Or digital ads as well. It's becoming an increasingly saturated place. It's becoming more expensive. Again, you have no control over that. So we really want to help brands to own the narrative themselves, to communicate directly with their customers, and that's what you have the most control over. And what sets us apart? It's really all boils down to data in the end. So we were actually kind of born as a data platform, and we bring data in from an array of different sources. So it can be your e-commerce platform, it can be the data that we're gathering from activities on the website, from your review provider, your loyalty provider, your point of sale system. All of that data is aggregated into one unified space that you can then use within Klaviyo to build segments and then send out emails to them. So that's kind of what sets us apart from the MailChimps of the world. So segmentation, as you're all aware, is super, super important. And using that customer data, you can build really granular, really powerful customer segments based on a number of things. This is the box on the right-hand side there. So it could be based on what a customer has or hasn't done. So maybe they've clicked on an email, they've opened an email, they've started checkout, you name it really. It could be based on properties about somebody, so maybe their gender, whether or not they need to be considered for GDPR compliance, their proximity to a location, so maybe your brick and mortar store, if you're running a promotion in store, you can send an appropriate email. Or even predictive analytics about the customer. So, our platform will be able to tell you what is the predicted customer lifetime value of that customer. So maybe you're wanting to target those that you think are going to be the most valuable customers to you over time. Or maybe predictive analytics about when do you think that next when that next purchase is going to come in. You'll be able to send emails to that customer segment too. So using all of these different segments, there are so many different use cases here, but if we're looking on the left-hand side for some of the most common use cases, you can use it to cross-sell. So if you have a group of customers who are buying a specific item, maybe a pair of shoes, you know that they are also then likely to go and purchase a similar pair of shoes or maybe a pair of tights that goes with it. So you can send an email to that segment to help them kind of cross-sell. Location-based, as we've discussed, if you've got like a pop-up sale somewhere going on, you're wanting to bring people into a specific location. If you're wanting to divert attention to a specific item or a specific brand, it's a good way to kind of target segments that way as well. You can then focus on engagement as well. So if you've got maybe a slightly unengaged customer segment that you're wanting to reactivate, you'll be able to pull that up. Or if you're wanting to get more out of your really engaged tier, you can then use segments that way. For those that are a churn risk as well, it's always really useful to know, if they haven't bought within the expected given time frame, maybe they haven't returned, you'll be able to identify that they're a churn risk and maybe hit them with a well-timed discount to reactivate them just before they drop off. Average order value, another great thing to focus on as well. So if maybe you're wanting to push out a slightly higher price point item, you want to target those that have a higher average order value generally when they shop with you, and they're much more likely to convert. And holiday shoppers as well. So say, for instance, you're rolling around to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and you want to bring in those shoppers who never buy with you throughout the year, but they always do when there's a sale on. Again, you can target that customer segment. So lots of different ideas. You can get really creative with segments, but it's just a way to get really targeted and really personalize your emails. So it's really that segmentation and personalization that I want to kind of focus on for the rest of this presentation. So the case study I really wanted to demonstrate to you guys today is Wilkinson Sword. So this is a Klaviyo product with their D2C site. Wilkinson Sword, I'm sure, well, hopefully everybody will know this brand. They've been around for, I think it's 250 plus years, and they have faced a challenge in that time that to stand the test of time, they've got to stay relevant. They've got to be able to replicate the core part of their brand, which was all about building trust with their customer, having customer interaction. How do they then replicate that online? And the answer they found was to really personalize that experience for their customers. So even though we've seen the rise of, really cool razor brands that have, the subscription-based model, Wilkinson Sword is still providing, and that's because instead of focusing on like a flashy product, they focus on what their brand has been true to the whole time, which is, maybe offering advice on how to use a razor, or, targeting their communication to whether they're, chatting to a teenage boy who's shaving for the first time, or somebody else that's been doing it for years, or maybe, a woman who's wanting to shave legs or armpits or whatever. So really, really targeting that. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into how they've managed to drive 67% of all of their purchases via email. So it's been said before, but you've got to start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. And that starts just as a customer lands on the page for the very first time. So if you're looking here at the top right corner, this is one of the sign-up forms that captures the email address in the first place. And as Breige kind of alluded to before, there are lots of different pieces of information that you can gather at this point. We would usually say keep it as simple as possible. But what Wilkinson Sword have decided to do is to capture that gender as well, purely because it is so relevant to the person that's going to end up buying the razor. So you can see you've got the gendered questionnaire there, and then off the back of that you have an automated set of emails that goes out, the welcome series, just to help convert people to become a first-time shopper. And as you can see, you've got the 3 emails down the bottom there, targeted towards 3 very different personal groups. And because of that hyper-personalization, 39% of people that received the welcome series went on to make a purchase. Now that figure it's crazy high. If you had an open rate of 39%, you should be very happy with you. But the fact that that purchase rate is 39% is really, really, really impressive. And they've put it down to, just how personalized those emails are. So definitely worth thinking about there. But looking beyond that first purchase, Wilkinson Sword have done a really good job at personalising the experience at every stage of the customer life cycle. And so, you've got a couple of examples here. If I just draw your attention to the one on the left, this is an abandoned cart message. And what they've done here is they've brought in the image from the product catalogue of exactly what it was that they left in the basket at that time. So it's, personalized to the user. They know exactly what they've left in the basket. They can see it. It will prompt them to go back. So that click-through rate is 15.9%. Very, very effective. And because that's all automated now, set it, forget it. Marketing team now has time to experiment with other areas of the platform and get creative with other areas of retargeting. So abandoned cart, set and forget is generating really fantastic click-through rates. When it comes to retargeting, if we look on the right-hand side there, what they've done here is really, really clever. So you've got another flow, another set of emails that will go out, one after the other. And in this email, they track what the customer is clicking on within the email. So yeah, you've got the click-through rate, but you know which of those 3 images the customers maybe clicked on. And because they've not made a purchase, they send a follow-up email with an image of where they clicked in the previous email. So it's just further teasing out that interest. And those emails, again, really effective, 60% open rate, which is a great example there. So obviously, in addition to this hyper-personalization and segmentation, what they do really well is list cleaning. And this is something everybody should be practicing for a number of reasons. List cleaning we talk about, it's stopping contacting people who are maybe uninterested, or they've unsubscribed, or they're just simply not engaged. A couple of reasons for that: it stops the hate. You stop being that brand that's, oh, they keep spamming my emails, I'm not interested. It increases your deliverability rates. So email providers will look at the engagement rate that your emails have and determine what deliverability rating you have. So you want that to be as high as possible. So you should be just sending emails that people will be engaging with. It helps with your customer retention as well when you're sending relevant emails to the relevant segment. Helps with your personalization and analytics. So you get like a proper idea of where you can be adapting your emails to get better results. And it also saves you money. So fewer sends, it makes sense. You're not adding a list of many people that just won't convert because they're not interested. So they've got a few ways of doing this. The list cleaning, as you can see, the example at the bottom there, John said that for his customers, if they haven't been engaged for 10 emails or so, they'll send a final hurrah, here's a discount, please come back. And if they don't come back, they just suppress the contact. So it's a good practice to get into to keep people engaged. But that's kind of a little bit of a teaser of the platform, how to use it. What I would recommend doing is, head over to go see Jasmine for a demo, just so you can see what the segments look like and how you can use it. But thank you very much.
Great.